All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much. My name is Scott Peltier. I lead incentives for the U.S. And in the room here, I have our incentives team. And so we're here to both present to you some of the latest things for FY18, but also I invited them here to make sure that we could answer some of the questions that you may have. I pulled a bit of an audible for the session, and some folks don't know this, but most of you have interacted with our Pi portal, the Partner Investment Engine portal, and most of you know the name Robert Fairtig, and he's here today. And there he is up front here, and I'm going to give him about 5-7 minutes to talk through, which I'm pretty excited about. We have programs that are literally live now, and some coming in the next week or two, and I'm finding that there's a lot of partner energy to find out what's going on there. We're also going to spend a little bit of time talking about the operational component of Pi because we went through several bumps and bruises, and I want to interact with you a little bit to find out and make sure that we're doing a better job. I didn't say perfect, but doing a better job than what we were. But I know Robert's pretty excited to see all the people he interacts with via email and IM and partner meetings virtually, and so I thought let's get him up here and run through the programs. I thought that'd be really, really nice. So in way of getting started, it's funny, I took a moment and read through feedback from last year's session. So I did this, a very similar session last year, and one of the comments was, wouldn't it be nice to have a comprehensive view of investments and incentives for a session like this? And that's very, very fair, but because of some of the ways we construct ourselves and we have roles and responsibilities, what I carve out is sort of my patch of dirt, what I'm personally accountable for. And so I'm going to set a tone for, we're going to highlight the things that will impact your business the most. But because of the new organizational structure for the partner group at Microsoft, I would suspect very shortly you're going to see a more centralized view than ever before. So I don't come up here and just present the consumption or usage or programs in Pi, but how about the other opportunities for you? And I think that that's something really, really necessary, that you get the full view and not just a partial view. So just to kind of set that tone a bit, was meeting with a partner earlier today, and my team produces a lot of analytics. We produce a lot of reports, a lot of data comes out of our team, and one of the more powerful things I share with partners, especially partners that are very active in our programs, they like to know where they stack rank against other partners. I have some partners that participate this much in our programs and some partners that participate this much in our programs. And the best conversations to have are when you have a senior vice president sitting to your right and you say, well, some of our top partners are earning $1 to $1.5 million, and they're earning $0, and then he starts looking at his staff going, how does that come up, how and why? So it creates a great business dialogue to, when we show the kinds of numbers and show the opportunities you have to help achieve our mutual goals, which are drive growth, drive customer adds, and the number one priority, one of our number one priorities is drive consumption. So we're going to talk through some of those, and some of you have sat in some of my round tables that I've had over the last day and a half, so some of the content will be repeat, but this session I'm going to give a little more context, how both we get to our spot of design, how we get to the actual, and we're going to review the changes, we're going to see some Pi stuff, and then most importantly, how do you stay connected to our team? And some of you, many of you probably already attend our office hours, we're very active on Yammer, and so I don't necessarily want this to be only Scott presents. I'm going to invite some of my other colleagues to share a few things about our portfolio. But also, you notice there's microphones, and it's important that, and my team knows this, and any partner that's interacted with me, your feedback to me is the most important thing. And so we like to listen hard, and we like to go and also evangelize your voice within the organization. And I'm not going to call the people out, but I notice in the room we have folks from our worldwide operations team here who support you in terms of payments and things of that sort. So he'll be keen to hear if some of those topics come up. And also I noticed some of our other counterparts who were deeply involved in the design phase of the incentives are here too. So you've got a rich crowd of the right folks to hear your voice. So again, if I talk for the full 45 minutes, then I didn't do my job, and I certainly don't want to do that. But pretty excited to be here. I'm not going to do that slide there. We're going to talk a little bit about, there's a whole process we go through for design, and I want to talk just a minute on that, just so you don't go away from here going, because sometimes it can feel like incentives are just sort of random. We move a rate up, we move a rate down, we do this, we're not random. And so we're going to just talk for a minute about that. The important part that I think that you came here for, and we're going to spend a larger portion of our time, we call it at a glance. And because I have such a wide swath of partners joining the room, I picked the top most important ones that I knew would have the most impact in a room like this. So we've left a whole host of incentives off of the at a glance, and there are other ways for you to connect to learn more about those. But we tried to pick the ones that I felt would have the most broad impact. And then we're going to break it down even one step further, and we do a lot of analysis, and we break down an actual deal to show you actual dollars or potential earnings. With our Azure changes coming and some new rates and a growth campaign and a customer ad campaign. So if the deal looked like this, what could I potentially earn in month one? And I think that's important for you to take back and do some number maths. And we do a lot of modeling for our partners in terms of that kind of how can I say, profitability aspect. And then finally, we're going to end with make sure you stay connected to my team. It's one of the predominant things we do as a team. We work with hundreds and hundreds of partners. We interact with, we visit, we fly, we do Yammer. There's just lots of ways. And so I want to leave you with, there's no excuse for you not to know a detail of a program or how to engage in the program. And you'll have an opportunity with the team, and I'll make them visible here in a little bit because I'm going to intertwine them throughout the presentation. So thanks for coming, and thanks for this interactive dialogue that I want to have with you all, and not just me present for this whole time, okay? All right. It's interesting. In way of introduction, I've led incentives now for almost 6 years. It's hard to believe that I've done this long, and I don't know if there's any SIP partners in here, Solution Incentive Program. Yeah, there we have a few victims of SIP, and that's when I started, and so a lot has changed since SIP to today. And one thing I've learned is it's always good to orient on, I call it Incentives 101. What are they for? Because as we talk about the strategy and we talk about the actual incentive, as you can imagine, over the years, I've had great dialogues, I've had not so great dialogues, I've had positive dialogues, and I've had negative dialogues. Well, what has really helped us in the last couple of years as partners have grown to understand the intent of the incentive, how the incentives are aligned to strategy, it's easier to get around why we did what we did. Years ago, it used to feel random. Why did you guys eliminate SIP? We just got started in it. We would stutter, we would try. Well, today it's very, very different, and it's a lot more business-oriented when we talk around incentives. And so I'm not going to talk through all of the bullets. If I look at the first one thing I've learned, partners go where money is. Partners go where money is, and as a company, when we think consumption is one of our number one strategies, in order to get you to think about consumption, we should put money there. I know this feels obvious, but this is how incentives are designed. It's very, very strategic driven. It's very modeled against what our goals and aspirations are, where the economy, or not the economy, but where technology is going. Very, very important. We have different incentive types. I think this is an interesting point. We have things called incentives, we have things called programs, and we have things called investments. And it just depends on how and what kind of activity we're trying to reward will guide a person like yourself into how to access those funds. I encourage a lot of different partners I visit with. If you're a larger partner organization, it's always good to have an individual at your organization to focus on those investment program incentive opportunities. I have a team of people, and I still learn things every day, and I've been doing this for 5 years. Okay, we've got a lot of programs, a lot of levers. How do you stay on top of them? At the very least, have somebody who puts time and energy and focuses on what are those opportunities, because it's easy then to discern where are our missed opportunities. Let me give you an example. In the PI program, this was staggering to me as we sort of were getting ready for today. The programs that Robert managed, we managed about 20 programs, sometimes over month less, sometimes about at the 20 point, $27 million. I'm just going to share. That's how I do things in a very transparent way. $27 million were made available through that portal for you, our partners, to come in, and I'll pick the most popular one, to drive assessments. That was probably our most popular program. In fact, it was, because the most dollars flowed through that program. Here's dollars, go do an assessment for Azure, show us that you did it, and you got a check for it. I wish it was all that fast and easy all the time. So do know I'm not blind to the challenges you all went through, and we'll talk about that. But it was a lot of money that was made available to you. So if I give you one recommendation and you hear one thing in this room, have a person in your organization dedicated, or at least make it top of mind for them, where they know the programs that you can be eligible for. And with the new role types that are announced, my favorite role that I heard announced that I keep talking about is the Partner Development Manager, the PDM. And our partners are getting that role to help them develop their business. And part of developing a business is what funding is available to help me, which ultimately does what? It helps Microsoft grow our consumption and grow our revenue and grow our customer ads. Last but not least, I think it's important to understand we have a team of people in the U.S. where my favorite thing to do is to travel and to hear your voice. And so we work with our worldwide teams and say, here's what the partners are saying, here's what they need, here's what's not working, here's what could work better if you did. And so if one of your objectives, let us hear your voice, whether it's on a one-on-one, whether you're going to raise your hand and ask me a question or make a comment. Really, really, really important, and it makes us in the U.S. very effective when we work with lots of different people within Microsoft. So that's a little bit of Incentives 101. And let me move on real quick. You'll see the blue circle. I'm going to make one comment about how we got right here this moment. We have 2 release dates for our incentives. One's July 1st. Things like there's a whole series of programmatic changes for CSP. Just for a show of hands, how many of you are resellers with CSP? A large number. I should say a lot of changes. Huge investments going into CSP. Mike on my team is going to talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But to get here, we have launch date on July 1, and then another series of programs. I'll pick on Azure for a moment. Those changes go into October 1st. One of my influences and our teams, can't we get everything to launch on one day versus having 2 separate July versus? We work on things like that. But we have 2 launch dates. We announced that all the programs are available for you to see and know the rates, which is a great moment always for Inspire. But to get here, a lot of work goes in. And I'm going to leave with you with one more point. The portfolio, as you can imagine, in the U.S. is very, very, very large in terms of dollars. It's staggering to me when I come to work and I think about the checkbook. Somebody made a joke to me, oh, the man with the money. Well, in one sense, yes, but we're very judicious, we're held accountable, there's compliance, there's all sorts of things that we have to monitor and watch as we manage this portfolio of incentives. This year, like none other, the highest level of executives reviewed the entire portfolio. And there were trade-offs. The number one question I get when they see a rate reduction on one of the levers that they have watched over the last, let's say, 12 months, where did you shift the money to? Did you take it out of the system, or did you move it? And I can say with high confidence, as the highest level of executives, like Amy Hood, our CFO, Judson Althoff, you heard him this morning, these high executives looked at this and said, here's where we need to make trade-offs, here's where we need to invest. And I know the investment areas that were, if you saw a change, CSP was one of those areas where we are significantly investing in this year. There's not less money in the portfolio. In fact, there's more money in the portfolio this year. We are just moving the money. And on that note, when I think back 5 years, if I were to ask you all in the room, I'd say, where do you think From a partner type perspective, even though that's one of the things we're going to be breaking down, partner types, you're all our partner. We spent a lot of our dollars on the transaction side of the business. Well, now we're spending more on the cloud side of the business, and CSP is one of those areas where we're selling a lot of cloud now and a lot of huge target growth areas in CSP next year. So partners, in this room, more dollars are available for more partners than what we may have seen 5, 10 years ago. And that's a real evolution that I have personally observed in the last almost 6 years. So to get here, a lot of work, a lot of scrutiny, yes, trade-offs, but what you'll feel is a shift, not a we reduce the dollars. I think that's an important note. I like to show this because it enables our team, it enables anybody who thinks about incentives. I've had thousands of conversations, not just this, I'm not referring to in the last 2 days, it sometimes feels like about 1,000, but over the years, over thousands of conversations. And what I like to be able to do is talk about incentives in light of strategy. And so when we think of eliminating or reducing rates in a program, we can go over to Azure, for example, and say, we added 2 new accelerators for you. And I'm going to talk about them in a moment. 2 more earning opportunities in Azure. This past year, your earning opportunity was really basically the Azure consumption, and it's DPOR dependent. Well, we added 2 more levers in there for you, and I'm going to talk about them. That's where some of the shift of investment went, okay? But it's aligned to strategy. So if shifting to the cloud and shifting to consumption, it's much easier to tell the incentive story when we're aligned to where our executives are saying, this is where the industry is going, this is where the company needs to go, and oh, by the way, this is where we need our partners to come as well. All right. This is an interesting slide, and I'm almost to the point at a glance where we're going to show some rates and things of that sort, and we're going to kind of talk through some of the mechanics, so just give me another minute on this particular. I started way back in FY13, and to me, it's so fascinating to see how the dollars that we invest in our partners globally has shifted from more of the on-prem concept to cloud as a service concept. And if I show this for this reason, is that there's more dollars available for a broader swath of partners than traditionally in years ago, making it it's great to do business with Microsoft, and more partners now can own that customer end to end. And you can see where CSP is going to play a larger and larger part of our business model, and we want more partners selling. And so this is what you're seeing with the shift of what we invested in cloud versus where our portfolio of incentives is headed. So this is a fantastic slide when I tell this story. All right. This is a slide now that we work really hard to simplify the incentive story. And we actually spend every day, how do we simplify the story? How do we bring things down into a page? So this is my attempt, our team's attempt, at showing you an opportunity at a glance. There are other incentives that you all would potentially be eligible for, but we tried to pick on where there was the most significant change. And I love all these cameras going up. That's cool. And by the way, you can email me and I'll send you a lot of these various things, so it's all good. But what I'd like to do is just kind of orient you to the slide a little bit, and that way I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the Azure piece. I have to look here because I cannot see and my eyes are bad. We have the CSP section, and I'm going to actually invite Mike to chat just for a moment about the opportunity in CSP. I'm going to spend some time on Azure because there's 3 components I want us to fully understand. And then I'm going to invite Robert up, and we're going to talk about Pi, okay? So CSP, can Mike have go stand by the mic, pull it out of there, and Mike, why don't you kind of highlight CSP for a moment, because Mike here focused a lot of his attention on CSP. Go ahead, Mike.
Is this on?
Yes.
Great. So the first thing I want to do is ask of all the folks in the room, does anybody know what it takes to be eligible for CSP incentives? That is correct. One of the cloud platform competencies. So there's 8 different competencies that qualifies you to be eligible for CSP incentives. Now that's a change because in FY17 up through June 30th, you had to be on the Microsoft Managed Partner List. To me and to many people, it's kind of like the old description that they had of the internet, right? Some of these decisions go up to the cloud, something magic happens, and a decision comes back. Oh, I'm on the MPL, I'm eligible for incentives. It's changed. It's now in your control. If you get a competency, you're eligible for CSP incentives effective July 1st. If you get one of those competencies prior to the end of December of this year, you will be paid CSP incentives back to July 1st.
That deserves a little bit of a golf clap, yes?
So anyway, that's eligibility. And when we talk about CSP incentives, you've all heard about CSP many times, I'm sure. It is the modern licensing motion for Microsoft moving forward. It is the primary way that we want our partners to sell to new customers and to sell cloud to new customers. Now, the first thing that I'll tell you is that the rates for a partner, whether you're a direct provider or an indirect reseller, are the same. They're very rich rates. You get paid on everything that you sell through CSP. Now, we've been told by our colleagues in worldwide that we can't share those exact rates with you, but they are very rich rates. They're the same in FY18 as they were in FY17. So there is a base program that pays you on every dollar that you sell through CSP. The second thing I would say is we are investing more money in CSP this year. We now have accelerators that will pay you for every dollar that you sell of Azure, Office 365 E5, Dynamics, SPE 3, SPE 5, so those Microsoft 365 products that were announced at Inspire this week. So we have a lot of accelerators on top of that. We have a good base rate for every dollar that you sell, and you can now control whether you qualify for that or not.
That's awesome. I'll just pause for a moment. Any quick 1 or 2 questions since Mike is at the mic?
Yes, sir.
So the competency was either silver or gold as long as it's one of those in
Right.
And just repeat the question so everybody can hear that.
So the competency is either silver or gold as long as it's one of those competencies in the bucket.
Thank you. Over there in the corner.
Yeah, are there any exceptions for U.S. public sector?
When you say exceptions, what do you mean?
Like everything open, all these incentives, are they available for U.S. public sector sales and limitations in the past?
As long as it is a sale through CSP, all revenue is incented. It does not matter what segment, what customer type.
So it's not like the CSA fees that they took away under the CRM and Dynamics?
I'm sorry, what was that?
There were CSA fees several years ago for public sector government if you were selling Dynamics or CRM, and then you were about 3 years ago, you no longer government's no longer eligible, those sales weren't eligible.
Correct.
CSA fees. So that might be, I don't know if that's the exception you're referring to, but that's the one I think of.
Let me catch you after and let's talk about that just for a moment, okay? There's some nuances, okay? Thank you. One more question, then we're going to move on. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm currently tier 2, so who would I talk to about investigating the feasibility of moving to tier 1 CSP?
I believe there
William.
is.
Send him to William.
Well, there's actually a forum on the Microsoft
I did
website
it.
that allows you to go there and
I would send
get
him to
more
William.
information. Yep.
William Llewellyn is his name.
Yep. But of course, the incentives across either tier 1 or tier 2 are exactly the same.
All right. So this is Mike Steinagel. He's on the team. Oh, you got your hand up? Okay, one more promise. Go ahead.
It took a lot of effort to get into Pi and Ariba. Are we still going to be using those going forward?
Using,
The Pi-
oh, you mean
Oh,
how
to
to
Pi
get
X?
paid.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Trying to get into those was just very difficult.
Yes.
Not use them. I'm sorry, not get into them, but use them.
We understand that, and we're currently running pilot programs to migrate to the Partner Management Center. All of our incentives in the long term will migrate to the Partner Management Center, including CSP.
So it's going to get better.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Partner
Not
Center.
Partner Management Center, Partner Center.
Partner
Okay.
Center. Thank you, Sal.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next topic,
Great.
if you'll let me, please. Thank you. So there's Mike, the expert on CSP. Catch him afterwards. Thank you, Mike. All right, the next thing, because I'm going to be sensitive to time here, I'm going to move down to Azure just for a moment. So there are some changes with Azure. Azure is a big bet for Microsoft, has been now, and it's going to continue, and we're investing heavily in here. So there's 3 components to the Azure incentive, and I'm going to use the word DPOR, actually the acronym, Digital Partner of Record. These 3 are Digital Partner of Record dependent. Okay, nothing's changing there. So to earn these 3 incentives, you must be the Digital Partner of Record. And we can talk about that from a mechanics perspective in just a moment, but let's just fixate for a moment on what you're eligible for in this, okay? So the first lever you're used to, most of you, is the consumption incentive, which last year, and I'll just say, was 15%. This year is 7%. To make that real for you, if the customer consumes $10,000, 10,000 times 7% is $700, right? Yes, thank you. I get the nod from my mathematicians up front. Thank you. So it's a very straightforward incentive, DPOR dependent, and big opportunity there. The reason why I say that is because now the next 2 levers I'm pretty excited about, because I like to see incentives. In some of our other programs, we actually design growth kinds of accelerators. The next one is called I call it my 20% quarter-over-quarter growth accelerator. So your DPOR on this particular subscription, and in quarter 1, what they consume, you will earn 7% of that. Plus, this quarter-over-quarter growth is, you will get paid 20% on the growth quarter-over-quarter, the increment growth. So let me make this real. Let's say in quarter 1, they consume $10,000. Quarter 1, $10,000. $10,000 times 20% is $2,000. So you will earn $2,000 because your baseline was 0 and you came up to $10,000. Quarter 2, they consume $12,000. The increment between 10 and 12 is 2, so you'll earn 20% on the $2,000. Quarter over quarter growth. So quarter 1 is kind of the most significant one because we're trying to get you to accelerate growth. Okay? Now the third component of this is I like to use the word bounty. There might be another word, but it's going to drive your customer ad motion. So in other words, in that first quarter, if you and your team, your consulting team, drives that customer to $5,000 of consumption, we'll pay you $4,000. So 7% for your first quarter consumption, 20% of that, because we'll catch you on the growth on the next quarter. We want you to grow this consumption. And then a $4,000 bounty if you drive $5,000 as a consultant. What's the dependency? DPOR. Okay? I'll just pause there, and is there a question or 2 on that? Yes, ma'am. Quarter, that's correct. Now, the number 1 question I'm getting as I am talking about this was just announced here a few weeks back, so me and my team were a little fresh on these, but the mechanic is, the question comes, what constitutes new? Okay? And so we're deep diving into that, and we're going to learn very, very shortly what that new means. Does it have to be a net new EA that they purchase it on? Can they add it to the I would rather not go into the mechanics of that right now. Let's just call it's a new customer, and we're going to get back to you on as we learn more and more of the details of the new. Okay?
Scott, real quick question. Let's say what times maybe implementing a customer takes 3 months.
Yes.
You're doing a big deal, and then they finally let you put DPO on.
Yep.
So when does that start? When they first started consuming, or from the time you actually got DPO?
Yeah, so to repeat the question, what happens if it gets sold and it takes 3 months to even get into the office and line up when we can start implementing, and then we become DPOR, and then when does that new trigger start? Does it start when it got sold? Does it start when you get put on DPOR? Those are the mechanics I don't understand end to end at the moment. But as soon as we do, I'm going to insist that Leah Childress up on my team up front here, we start posting these things on Yammer and part of her office hours in terms of readiness. And she gave me a thumbs up, so I'm aligned to what she's going to do and be accountable for. Thank you, Leah. Okay, I have another question over here.
Is that for the direct and indirect CSP, or just for the direct CSP?
So you back up on CSP now.
Well, the DPOR, it says
Yes? Huh. See, go ahead. Right. So you caught a typo. Thank you. I'm glad. Not glad that the typo's there. CSP should not be there because, and I think this is a good education because I just got refreshed on this here a month ago or so. Day one, customer purchases on CSP. They've consumed nothing, so there's nothing to bill the customer. At the end of the month, they consume, you bill the customer, there's your consumption. And then you earn rebates on what that customer gets billed against. So that word CSP should not be there. It's a very separate, purchased on an EA, DPOR. Thank you. Yes?
What is premium workload as defined? It says Azure Everywhere for premium and data workload.
And you're back on
Azure. Pi.
oh, so will you wait till we get down to Pi? I'm going to invite Robert up here. Yeah, we're not at that section yet.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. No, that's all right. Okay, go ahead. Yes. We can. I just was going to skip it for sake of time, but ask your question.
I think this slide clarifies it, but I know that Exchange Online is gone.
That's correct.
Is it, but then 365 is still there?
Yes.
So if I have an E3, am I not getting paid on the game? So
Let me clarify a little bit. So one of the workloads that we paid on last year in FY17 was Exchange Online. This year, we took Exchange Online out of the active usage. So all the other workloads are still eligible for within 365 to earn active usage, but it's DPOR dependent. That's correct. The strategy reason behind that? No, not necessarily. If you think about active usage or consumption, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get customers to utilize our software. The old days, they would buy a box, set it on the shelf, let 3 years go by, and we've never implemented that first box. Well, this is, here it is, start using it. So Exchange Online, as you would imagine, a very, very used workload. Well, let's not pay that one anymore. Let's go after Skype and BI and SharePoint Online and Serum Online and things of that sort to drive up that usage. Okay? Yes, here. Can you still have multiple DPORs per Azure? I think what you're asking is, does Azure allow multiple partners per? Right. Okay. So the short answer is yes, but 2 enhancements are coming to DPOR. And I'm gonna work really hard to be as accurate as possible about this because this is part of some announcements that are even yet coming this week. The first enhancement to Azure DPOR is, and for those of you that are deeper on this, I'm not as deep, from the billing portal to the management portal. Apparently that's active today. That went live within the last short while. Can I get a nod from some of my experts? No. But I talked to my experts, and that has significance because of who has access to the management portal versus the billing portal. Sometimes the wrong contact and therefore the DPOR was misassociated, okay? The second enhancement coming in about 2 months, I've been told, is that we're going to allow DPOR at the workload level. Today, it's at the subscription level per what you just said. But there are efforts being put in place to allow DPOR at the workload level, not just at the subscription level. The impact to incentives, I understand that this is the first phase to get to where we want to pay incentives more at the workload level, but it's still at the subscription level as we know it today, okay? From an incentives perspective. Stay tuned for more information on that. Next question, yes?
real quick, so if we price out a customer and we know it's going to hit that 5K in a new deal, you're saying the incentive then is to go with an EA?
I'm trying to read into the question a little bit. Go ahead.
On a $5,000, so we expect it's going to be $5,000 a quarter in spend when we first
Okay.
build out the solution.
Okay.
You're incenting us then to go to EA with that customer rather than CSP.
Okay. So the short answer is no. The incentive isn't to say which licensing type you should try and nudge the customer toward. The point is, if that customer, because you're consulting them, says, hey, I want this Azure solution. You said, yep, we can do all of this. And then the customer says, oh, by the way, I'm working with LSP such and such, and I'm going to go purchase. Great. When you're done, come talk to me. And then once you go and start developing that solution for them and implementing, if they consume $5,000, you get $4,000. So it's the customer's choice in how they're working their licensing. Unless you're a CSP provider, then that's a different story. A little confusing there. But our incentives aren't designed to say, customer, go that licensing solution versus that. That's not what we're trying to produce here. I like to take the approach right now is if they purchase it on the EA and you drove that net new and you're consulting them and you're DPOR, then you get the $4,000 bounty. If we can provide more clarity, I'll hang with you afterwards, okay? All right, any more questions before I turn it to Robert, who's going to talk us through some Pi stuff? Yes? The question is, did Leah say, is she going to have a call about some of this stuff? Leah, are you going to have a call about some of this stuff?
Yes. So I have monthly.
Why don't you go to the microphone, or make you go to the microphone.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I have monthly office hours the last Thursday of every month for this fiscal year. I have not set up the series yet. They were previously done through Event Builder, so I'm going to try to see if there's options for how to set them up because I know it's not working well. So stay tuned for that and keep an eye out and put a marker on your calendar for the last Thursday of every month.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. I'm going to move to Pi. While Robert is making his way up, come on up, Robert. I'm going to make Robert stand up here. He's all mic'd up. He's fired up to talk to you all. So I'm going to ask the question right off the bat. You know, I think back to September, the Pi operation piece was not good. Dave Willis would go out to do roundtables with partners like yourselves, and of all things, the topic of Pi and how difficult and challenging it was to work with. And so a lot of that pressure came down to Robert and I, and we became best friends this last year, and we were involved in a lot of nitty-gritty details. And so May, June come around, and I'm going to ask you, when you think about 12 months ago, and you think about, I just say the word today, same, worse, or better, your Pi portal experience applying for funds. Show of hands for worse. Robert, you did a good job. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't make it worse. Good to hear.
Better? I didn't say perfect, I said better, right? And that's a, thank you. I saw a hand go up after I just clarified that. And do know that we have scrutinized every step and continue to do so. We have, there's just a lot of areas we still have improvements to make, but Robert's the guy who worked with the support team and has done a lot of really good work. And I don't want to overdo this, but this has been a big deal because I told you $27 million were made available to you all. And Robert works relentlessly to improve that experience. So Robert, with that, will you just talk through the programs that you've helped bring into market fast so these partners can start accessing these funds?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Scott. And hey, it is so good to see everybody in person who we've emailed and talked on the phone so many times, all of you who joined office hours. It's really great to actually meet you face to face. I know I've already met a lot of you, and hopefully we can have more one-on-ones today and tomorrow and maybe even Thursday. So to set the stage for Pi, there's basically three things that we're trying to do this year. We're going fast on all three Microsoft clouds with Azure, Dynamics 365, and Office 365. Typically, it's taken us months to get all that stuff out of the gate. We didn't see Dynamics 365 until a couple months ago in FY17, and we're launching on all three clouds at the in July. The next thing is we're trying to align more and more to how partners work. So we're going to be broader in scope, and we're going to try and talk in your language rather than segment language. So we're going to move more of our programs to be either segment agnostic or more focused on industry, which I think is a language we can all speak together rather than some weird Microsoft segmentation. And then the last piece is that we're going to be focusing on premium workloads or premium projects as much as we can. So to talk through the specific offers then, we have Azure Everywhere as our initial broad offering. So that program is launching this week. That program has no partner restrictions other than being a US partner. It has no customer restrictions. So the only thing that restricts from being an eligible engagement is that it has to be an opportunity size of at least $1,000 per month of expected consumption or spend. So this goes across Azure, SQL, and EMS, and we expect Azure is where most of it's going to come from. There are two payout amounts. So if you're going to above $2,000 of monthly consumption or spend, then you can get $3,000. If you're going between $1,000 and $2,000 of expected consumption or spend, then you can get $1,500. The next offering is going to be a more premium offering for Azure and data platform workloads. So it's called Azure Everywhere for premium and data workloads. There's a set of premium workloads that you can find on our Yammer page. And it has some IaaS, some PaaS, OMS, and SQL on-premise. So this is a workshop and assessment program. You can get a $5,000 payout for a workshop and a $2,000 payout for an assessment. This program is going to be eligible across segments as long as the account is managed. So again, no really specific segmentation requirement there. There are competency requirements for this program since it is a higher payout amount. We want to make sure we're working with the right partners here. So if you guys are able to get that competency, you'll be eligible for this program. So you can be cloud platform competent, cloud productivity competent, or enterprise mobility management competent. Not enterprise mobility management. I mixed up programs for a second, sorry. Cloud platform competent or data platform competent. The next offering is our Dynamics 365 offerings. So there's two here. There's a pre-sales proof of concept and a post-sales deployment. So this is another one where you're seeing a focus on premium projects. The Payout Scale based on the expected payout, or the expected revenue. So it starts at a $5,000 payout for the proof of concept program and goes all the way up to $32,000. And for the post-sales deployment, it starts at $5,000 and goes all the way up to $20,000. Plus, you can actually use both of these offerings for the same customer. If you're using it to start the sales process with a proof of concept, you successfully sell, and then you want to deploy, you can use both of them on both ends of the sale. So this is a really lucrative offering. It's eligible for Gold Dynamics partners. Then we have our Office 365, and this is one where we're trying to go broader. So again, we're trying to remove limits around segmentation. So it's actually eligible for public sector this year, which it wasn't last year. So Office 365 G1, G3, and G5 are now something you can use this program for, as well as Office 365 E1, E3, and E5, plus Microsoft 365. So there's a lot of ways you can use this program. It's a proof of concept program, $3,000 payout, but we're actually also looking for a way to provide more payments if you're doing a dark to cloud customer. So it's not going to be restricted on segment there, but we're looking to see if we can make this offer richer for customers that are not consuming or not using a lot of their Office 365 packages or don't have any yet.
Robert, those are a lot of details to remember. Like, I can't even keep them straight, let alone our partners are trying to consume all this. So what's the best way for them to know the programs, understand the programs, and the different changing programs throughout the year? What do you recommend? So
there's two main things. One is the Yammer page, which you can find the link to at our, the link to Pi is microsoftpartnerinvestments.com, and there's a resources section there. We do update those resources, but for the most up-to-date information, Yammer is going to be more of a community that we have where we can post, and partners often help each other out with answers, and I'll come there and answer questions. So that's one really good place. The other really good one is office hours. As I said, a lot of you have joined those. We're going to be doing those every week starting in a couple of weeks. I'll send out a new invite, and I'll work with Leah on how we can both find a better solution since we each had some issues with our invites this year.
Robert, is there a catalog that you track these in? Like they can a single page like I do up here, and they can just page through and have sort of a summary and eligibility and things like that?
Indeed, there is. There's a deck at the Yammer page called the Pi Programs Overview Deck. So you can find that, and that's also, there's a Excel file right next to it that's
Excellent.
That's the premium workloads list.
Good. So, is that the programs? I kind
That's
of
the
pitched off a little
programs.
bit there.
Yeah.
That's a great big deal. So it's 6 programs live by the end of this month.
Mm-hmm.
How many are live today?
1.
One's live today, and that's Azure Everywhere.
Yep.
No barriers. Love that. All right, let's open it up for a few questions. And we have our first one over here.
Real quick, all that high stuff, doesn't matter what licensing model, right?
Doesn't matter the licensing model.
The question was, does licensing matter when you apply for a Pi program? And the answer is no. Other questions?
Besides the PI programs that require me a new customer, are there any other customer restrictions, or those are open, all of them to any customer?
So a lot of them will have a managed account restriction. And as some of them, as we're learning some of the new segmentation, and since some of them aren't live yet, we're shifting them over the next couple of weeks. So I'll be able to give more specific announcements, but we're working really hard to not have barriers like that.
You know, that's a good question in that some of the announcements you're hearing about our own internal organization and breaking down these barriers, there's things that we're actually learning just like you are. And so the segmentation, we've not fully thought through that and how it's going to impact these programs and who and what. So just stay tuned, stay close. But obviously, if Azure Everywhere said segmentation doesn't matter, I would expect to see more and more of that as the programs go live. Other questions?
Yes.
I think I missed what the premium workload was under CSP. What was that?
So the premium workloads for Azure Everywhere, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, what's the definition of a premium workload?
So we selected, it's about 20 or 30 different services in Azure and SQL on-premise that drive the most consumption from.
Like VMs, for instance.
So there's a bunch of different IaaS and PaaS. A couple of the ones that I can remember off the top of my head are Cosmos DB, Azure Data Services.
It's on the Yammer page.
It's on the Yammer
Okay,
page, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. I don't know how he keeps all this. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for saving me today. Any other questions about Pi?
We have one back here.
Go ahead.
Is iPortal entry going to change at all, or is it going to stay the same format?
So there are a couple things that are going to change, not super dramatic. One of them is that for the Azure programs, we're going to ask with your proof of execution that you provide a subscription ID from the customer. You don't have to provide all of them, just one. Another one is that, and this was already in the portal, it's going to change a little bit how it looks, but you'll have to input your date of your master supplier services agreement when you request funding. And we're working on a way that you'll only have to do it once, so you don't have to remember it, and and I can help you find that out if you don't know it.
Did you ask that question because you want something to change, or you asked that you just want to know if something's going to change?
I just want to anticipate any future frustrations.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Robert, let me make a couple of suggestions. In the
Please.
portal. One of the things is when you're in the portal and you're viewing all of your pies, okay, when it's not, you have to go in and click on it to actually see what account it is. Is there any way we could have a field there that we can look down and see the account instead of trying to look it up by PO number or case number?
Yep, so that's on the roadmap, and I actually think that'll happen pretty soon, that in your high-level view, you will see the customer account. One other thing we're doing, we got some feedback that if you were using a program that had multiple workloads, so you might be able to use it for the same customer twice, it was hard to identify which one was the one you were actually looking for. So we're going to add that, not in that high-level section, but you'll be able to click in and then see which workload it is.
Well, and the other thing is,
Can everybody hear him when he's asking these?
There's a mic right behind you if you want to.
Thank you. Would you do that, please? Just want to make sure that everybody can hear.
I used to be a highway patrolman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, used to be a highway patrolman. I usually yell loud enough.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
So that question was when you pull down when you look at the list of Pi deals that you have, there wasn't a way to see the account name. You literally had to look for the case number, and you had to have some kind of a reference for what that was, or go click and open every one of them to find it, or you had to know your PO number and still go down and click and open it. So you said there's a fix coming for that. The second thing is, when there is some kind of an email response back to us, even if it's approving that PI, it always had only the case number in it. So once again, it was like, which one of the 100 accounts is being approved? So is there any possibility we could get the client name in the heading, so when we look at it, we say, oh, it's approved, case number 5 for, XYZ company?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually did that for some of the emails that go out most frequently. We did already, not in the header, but in the body, we do have the customer in there. And we're doing a full-on audit of all the emails, so you'll start to see that happen to all of them over the course of the next weeks and months.
Any other questions? We're at a 3:20 time frame, and I have one more slide, and it's just how to get a hold of us that we're going to go into. Any other questions? The whole team is here, and sort of everything gets to be sort of fair game at this moment.
Yep, Ken.
The Office 365 Pi was for managed partners only.
Yeah, it's
you
actually
repeat the question, please?
managed partners only. It's really partners with Partner Sales Connect access, which right now is managed partners. So if more and more partners get onboarded, that will change. But that's the reason for it. And so right now it's managed partners only.
Other questions?
We have one over here.
Are the BIF programs still around?
The BIF programs? Yes. So these are all BIF programs. BIF stands for Business Investment Funds. Just so everyone knows, there's a new name for it, End Customer Investment Funds. You'll hear them interchangeably, though. These are actually all using that kind of funding, and customer investment funds. There are other ways if you're working with an account manager on a deal, a customer side account executive with Microsoft, they can nominate you for different kinds of funding, but you'll want to be tied in with the field for those kinds of things. But these are the programmatic things we offer directly to you.
All right, with that, I'm going to switch to the next slide, and we're going to close up our session. The time went really fast. Robert, thank you. And thank you for all the work with Pi. So now, what's going to happen post-Inspire? And you know what, Lee, I'm going to put you on the spot. You want to talk a little, go up to the mic and kind of talk everybody through, because Leah on the team really is in charge of all-up readiness and making sure you have the right information at the right time, and she does incredible work training, teaching, showing, demonstrating all these different opportunities. You want to just talk through just a little bit?
Yeah, so thanks everybody for joining. And if you're new or have additional questions, please come and talk to me after the session. Especially if you have any questions about competencies or anything like that, I'll get you in touch with our other team members as well who can help you. In regards to what we do a variety of office hours. I host the enterprise ones as well as the cloud ones. So for the cloud ones, like I said, they happen the last Thursday of every month. We are largely active on Yammer. Robert, you'll notice, posts more often because his program changes are more frequent, whereas I tend to post, more around the times where incentives launch. So as Scott was mentioning earlier, we have our July launches, so you'll see me be pretty active on there with anything that's applicable to you guys. I also try to consolidate any ops comms as well, just to make sure that if you guys are getting those in your
What
email,
does ops mean, Leah?
Ops, so operations communications, so anything that would impact you programmatically that isn't necessarily directly incentives, but it could be a portal issue or an onboarding process or something that you guys would need to be aware of. So I try to make sure that you guys are aware of those things kind of outside of incentives, just because it does impact, your ability to get paid. So I want to make sure that you have kind of a holistic view for what you're getting. So just, if you don't want to join the incentives and investment group itself because it's too active for you, that's totally fine. If you want to follow specific team members, you could do that as well. So if you just followed Robert, you would just get Pi updates. If you followed me, you would get cloud updates. But I encourage all of you to join the incentives and investments Yammer group. I can send out this slide deck specifically after to the Yammer group, which doesn't help you if you're not on the Yammer group, which is why I said just come talk to me and I'll send you an email with the link to the group itself. And feel free to reach out anytime if you have questions. I'm more than happy to set up one-on-one meetings, either during Inspire or after, just so we can get acquainted and I can learn more about your business and kind of how we can partner together.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so one of the things that we as a team strive for is to stay connected to you. my ask of you, stay connected to us. A lot of opportunity for us to learn, and you guys have already provided some great feedback for us as we think about what's working, what's not. But there's no excuse not for you all to be connected to us, because there's a lot of forums, and we encourage that. So before I close up, I want to thank you for attending. Any final questions before I dismiss us and let us all go? And I want to make sure this is valuable. And if not, you contact me. We'll spend some more time together. But understanding the audience, the level of altitude that we want to be at, we're showing and demonstrating to you some of the most significant things happening in the portfolio this upcoming year. Yes, sir. Is there a, oh, I was going to say something, but I won't. Is there a competency person? He knows what I was going to say. Is there somebody who's an expert on competencies in here? Hit the MPN booth down in the comments. Sorry about that. Okay. So there was a session on MPN, was her point, and but otherwise go catch the booth, okay? Anything else? All right. Thank you, everybody, for being great partners, for attending Inspire, and I trust and hope that you have a great experience the next day and a half. Thank you.